Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Tran. I have been struggling with mental health issues ever since I was a teenager, and I've been working through them with a psychotherapist for about 4 years now. In this channel, I share my personal experience and professional knowledge on healing the deep wound underneath the surface symptoms like fear of abandonment, social anxiety, people-pleasing, and dysfunctional relationships. Subscribe and join me on the journey. Growing up around narcissistic parents can be quite painful and confusing, because sometimes we find ourselves being this very broken place. We feel helpless and we feel like a victim, but sometimes we find ourselves on the other side acting very judgmental, critical towards ourselves and even to other people. Sometimes we find ourselves being the very person that we don't want to be, just like our parents, right? Because we know firsthand how painful it is to be around mean, narcissistic, and even abusive people. So we are often in a state of confusion with the pain, with the guilt and shame, and also with this unexplained brokenness and anger that we don't know where to go. So in this video, I wanted to explain 3 detrimental ways that narcissistic parents can traumatize you. Simply by understanding this, you will feel great relief from the pain, the shame, and confusion. The first way is that you have either narcissistic tendency or codependent tendency when you grow up. When your family relating is difficult in your early life, when the basic needs of an innocent, vulnerable, and dependent child are not met, this shows up in a child as being consistently anxious, unsettling. It's just uncomfortable. But as children, we don't know how to voice that, so we just act out and we just, tend to be very clingy. I remember how I was a child. I was famous in the village that I grew up in as being clingy, and I could cry for hours and hours and non-stoppably. And when I was in kindergarten, I tend to follow my teacher around a lot. I tend to be extra clingy and extra needy. I just demand their attention all the time, and when they pay their attention or when they compliment some other child, I would become very jealous and I would tend to act out angrily. But as a child, it's impossible for them to voice how uncomfortable they feel. Maybe it's a tightening in the chest, maybe it's a burning sensation in the stomach, maybe the tingling sensation throughout their arms, their legs. Without a security attached figure, which narcissistic parents couldn't be, the child they haven't learned how to self-regulate. Narcissistic parents, because they don't have this ability to attune to their children's needs, to see them as independent human beings. Instead, narcissistic parents see people as how they want them to be. They cannot put their personal agenda aside. They cannot put their ego aside. How many of you have your parents yell at you or punish you just because you make the family look bad? And even though now you look back, you're like, of course I act that dumb way. Of course I was stupid. I was a child, and all children do the same. However, narcissistic parents they want their children to act in a premature way, to not throw temper tantrum, to not show weaknesses, to not misbehave, especially in public occasions. They want their children to act in a role that can make the family look put together. Narcissistic parents often have 2 faces. Most of them maintain a perfect persona, appearing as highly successful, charming community pillars, philanthropists, well-respected lawyers or doctors, but closed doors, they can be extremely mean, seductive, contemptuous toward their children. Since the anger and confusion towards your parents cannot go away, it goes out in 2 ways. So one way, you're acting against yourself, displaying codependent tendency, where you tend to be the people pleaser, tend to unhealthily dependent on other people. You wanted to fix them. Or you act out towards other people, showing this narcissistic tendency where you wanted to be powerful, wearing your armor, you wanted to feel superior than other people so that you feel the sense of control instead of vulnerability. As I've observed, it's usually a mixture of both, of acting and act out. So for example, if I am the act-in kind, which I was highly depressed because I took on this victim role. I fixated on being helpless, on being vulnerable, because I didn't want to be like my narcissistic dad. Having emotions means selfish to me. To another extreme, some people may tend to take on this narcissistic kind of role. So they wear armor, protecting themselves against their own weaknesses or vulnerabilities because early on they were refused, by their parents to show that side of themselves. Something interesting I found out was that even though we try to not be like our narcissistic parents, we just inherit it somehow from growing up around them. For example, when I was in high school and college, I tend to judge people based on what school they go in. I need to have an Ivy League friends, Sometimes I felt superior. I constantly think, well, I have this, but you don't. And I am superior than you. My family's richer than you. I'm prettier than you. I have more people like me than liking you. So I think that's very interesting to look at throughout my reflections. Maybe you have this side as well, but maybe you have pushed them away that you didn't want to admit it. But I think it's very natural to have those both sides because that's how we can become whole instead of pushing another extreme to the background. The second way is that you tend to have a low self-worth when you have been constantly put down, rejected, shamed, or abandoned emotionally. Your healthy sense of self is not fully developed. What adds to the pain is self-blame, which means maybe when you see your perfectly glowing parents outside, you see how they treat other people. You see how nice they are around other people. And then you turn around and think, well, then why do they do this to me? This must be because there's something wrong with me. I remember how I constantly hear that employees of my family, they would tell me, well, how lucky you are to have been born into this family because your dad is successful, he's charming because my dad is kind of handsome, and how independent your mom is, how happy you must have been in this family. But I turned around and I just couldn't find any possible means to explain the chaos that I feel inside because everyone says that I should be happy. They say that they are jealous of my life in this family. But how come I feel broken? How come I feel I'm empty? I don't really feel the love, the glow that my parents bring me. So this causes me a lot of confusion under this seemingly happy facade that they portray to the outside world. And this causes me to feel like there's something wrong with me, And constantly, when I try to do something, for example, when I try to have the ice cream, no, I hear my mom's voice, that's greedy, you cannot have that. Or when I try to voice myself in the public, I would hear my dad saying that, why are you so dumb? Why are you so stupid? Just shut up, just go back to your room. And those voices were just internalized inside of me. Every time when I try to be visible, I feel restrictive somehow, I feel this fear inside of me because it reminded us of the original feeling of being rejected, of being abandoned emotionally, being shamed by our parents. Bodily feeling that I don't feel well turns to my self-identity that I'm bad and I'm defective. I feel like I'm not worthy of love. I'm not valuable enough for people to stay in my life. So my question is, how many of you have done the same? How many of you have tried, just like your parents did, to objectify yourself as you must be in this way to have love? Well, if I don't land this job, I'm worthless. If I don't get successful, I'm a loser. If I don't get that girl or boy's attention, I'm defective, I'm worthless, nobody's gonna love me. The third way growing up around narcissistic parents can traumatize you is that you are vulnerable to future dysfunctional relationships. This is not unique to people who grew up around narcissistic parents. People with low self-worth, they tend to manifest a lot of relationship problems because it is in intimate relationships, in the initial ones with our parents, with our caregivers, that the trauma happens. So in intimate relationship, this trauma gets activated. So a lot of us wonder, why don't I have problems with friends? I seem to work okay with my colleagues. Because those are kind of further layers of intimate relationship. It's outside, so it doesn't get activated that much. But as you go into the core, the intimate relationship, this is where trauma gets activated. For the past 20 years, I have been struggling with severe abandonment anxiety, obsessing to a point that I'm going crazy. I got myself into numerous toxic relationships where I couldn't find the courage to leave because I just felt trapped. even if the pattern has been so clear that they were not good for me. I just have so much to say about this topic because I know firsthand how painful it was, and I struggled with it for many years, and I wanted to pour all of my experience and knowledge on this topic to you all. And I'm gonna put the playlists of fear of abandonment, social anxiety, people pleasing down in the description box that you can check out later if you're interested, if you're struggling with it. They are exactly what helped me heal in the first place, and I just really wanted to have the option to explore. And I think a lot of people can relate to this level because relationships absorb a lot of our energy. We lose vitality of life. When we are exhausted, struggling mentally, we basically couldn't really devote to other life areas. Like, we couldn't really put ourselves together to explore the world, to explore our value, to build meaningful connections, right? Simply because in the background we don't have healthy, stable relationships to fall back to when we're exploring the world. So we become somehow intimidated, afraid to ask for what we really want due to the feeling of undeserving. Alright everyone, hope this video is helpful. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up. If you wanted to see more videos like this, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.